Okay, good. Just in case.
Yeah, we'll be able to edit. Hi,
Good.
everybody. I'm Terry at Holding Your Space, and this is Dave Johnson.
Hello.
Dave has two beautiful uh, YouTube channels, Pyramid 4 and Moonride, where you channel the
Yeah.
man in the moon.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just so excited to have you here and talk about trance channeling and talk
Yeah.
about everything, really, talking about what's going on the planet right now and how we can kind of relax into it and abide and observe.
Yes, relax is the key word. How to achieve such an end right now is certainly a good question. One thing that I'll just point out is silver linings. Okay. Since this whole election, I have stopped watching a lot of YouTube. I am almost exclusively no video, no television, and it's getting me to read terrific books. Here's the one that I'm reading right now. It's by Robert Johnson, no relation, right? And this is, it was kind of like in the 90s, lots of people read He and She and We, and Inner Work is a really wonderful book.
Oh,
But I just
yeah.
found again, yeah, have you ever read that? Yeah.
No, I haven't,
Um,
but I've heard of it.
oh gosh, if you want to learn to like, it was like a 20 years before I channeled, learning to
Mhm.
channel. And I know I was learning to channel because it's totally in the psychological sort of arena of active imagination. Um, but it's just gotten me to read again. And I am not like, you know how it is. You've got a couple of clients, there's half an hour in between. Well, I'll just see what's on YouTube and I'll go to this frenetic experience of information gathering or getting really
Wow.
upset or, yeah, being like, yeah, you deserve that. It's just our consciousness has been changed to a huge degree by the availability of this information. And I don't think it's something that people have really recognized or they're talking about. And of course, I'm on my YouTube channel saying, don't watch YouTube. It's a kind of a contradiction. No one out there who's doing this work is going to say that. So I will just tell you, most people I know just giving up news. They don't care what kind of news it is. We already know what we're going to do. So I'd say one is read, if that's available to you. If there's YouTube stuff that isn't political or isn't sociological so much, I really recommend it. There's lots of music to listen to. And there are just many, many ways. But I think, right, the video I made right after the election, which was kind of like, sorry guys, I don't know what wrong video. Incidentally, I got a lot of responses who said, no, you're not, no, you're not, no, you're not. And that's what started me to reconsider what might be the future. But when I did that, the first thing I thought about was somebody who I've been in an argument with for many years, really close to me person, who I haven't spoke to. And I'm like, you know what? That's stupid. That's so we had a disagreement about something. Why am I? This is my complete ally. I'm completely in love with this person. Why am I doing that? And so it's like I have agency there.
Right.
And coincidentally, at the same time, that person emailed me literally that moment and said, you know what, let's stop fighting. So it just completely worked out. It's like nothing ever happened. So, those are things that we can control. And I think they make us better people. It's all well and good for me, Dave Johnson, to be judging. This is how he's behaving. Well, what behavior of my own is kind of Trump-like? To what degree am I
Right.
righteous and deluded and all about money? Because that was the other thing that I had to take a look at. All this manifestation I've been doing got a little haywire. At the end of the manifesting, I'm seeing myself with something flashy. And instead of a happy house, I'm seeing a big, huge, beautiful house that will impress people. So I think there was a bit of humility that showed up on the 6th of November. And I would suggest to all of us, without self recrimination, that we mine this for as much value as we can get out of it. What is the universe trying to tell us about ourselves? That's a
Yeah.
second way. I have tried and tried for years to go on a diet. This thing, you all know what happens. You hook up with someone, the diet goes out the window, you're just trying to impress them with the over deliciousness of your food, and you wind up going out to dinner all the time, and there comes the COVID pounds, right?
Yeah.
I was like, come that Wednesday, sharp as a razor. I'm like, I am going to sit at home and drive myself crazy thinking about these terrible things that are going to happen if I do not go right now and go swimming. And I just
Mhm.
make myself go swimming. I made myself do yoga. I always put that stuff off. And I have been like a laser focused on this diet of mine, which is not that big a deal, but I just
Right.
couldn't get myself to stop that comfort food. And I'm just like, this is what I have to do, right? It's not optional.
Yeah.
I was just said to all of you, you don't need to go crazy here. But if there is some habit you need to break, if there is some helpful thing that you could be doing other than focusing on the disaster sequences that we are constantly sort of addicted to, by all means, that's what you can do. You can change that. And if everything works out hunky dory in a month, then you'd be like, well, and I look great. So I really had probably lost 5 pounds, right? So
Wow.
that's these are all things that we can do. I meditate every day now, and I have for a while, but now it's just a little bit longer, a little bit more focused. And you know how meditation is when you start out, it's like chatter, 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 chatter. Oh, that third grade teacher, chatter, 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 chatter.
Yeah.
And you know, well, you just notice it. And by all means, you guys, if you're just learning to do it, that's normal and it's totally okay. You just want to notice what you're thinking about because you realize your third grade teacher is dictating something to you right now. But you don't need to pay attention to that. That's it's the past. You just got to move on it. Once that clackety clack stops, there is a moment of quiet.
Yeah.
And after a while, you get to more quiet. And then it can be a couple of minutes of quiet. I think I've got there. So now when I'm meditating, I'm a little bit more like, I find myself sitting there like, he will be punished like this. And if only Joe Biden did this, everything would be fine. And then we should do this. And women should have equal rights. And we'll get that ERA amendment back. And I find myself just creating systems that I think would be best for everyone.
Sure.
And when about the situation is, I don't know what's best for everyone. I think I know what's best for everyone, but maybe spirit has got other plans. Maybe we do need to have a kind of democracy where we don't sit like dilettantes and tap away and comment. We have to go to these places and stand up with brothers and sisters who are oppressed. When these people in Georgia had 2 million votes suppressed, you know, we need to go out and sit in the street and say, no, we're not accepting that. And if a president is elected in this way, we're not accepting that. And we might have to become that active. I think that we should have done that 20 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting, just like South Korea recently had the
Yes.
martial law, and everybody said, I don't think so. And they said, whoops.
Oh, South Korea, we thought that they were quiet and reserved, but here they did what we should have done. I think that's a very interesting point, and it's really symbolic that those people said no to fascism.
Right. Right. They were strong and fierce. And I love that. So, okay, I've got so many questions here from what you've said. Number one, I want to get to the diet. Because that's something I'm always working on.
Oh,
Do you feel like your body is more sensitive as your light has grown? I'm saying your light has grown, but I don't know if that makes sense or not.
sure. Oh, it
Um,
makes perfect sense.
okay, good.
I'm going to take it as a compliment. Yes, my light has grown. I don't know. I mean, a bunch of things are happening. First of all, I'm a married man, and it used to be if I wanted to go to diet, I would just not buy any food because I wouldn't take the time to go to the grocery store at 5 in the afternoon when I'm craving a candy bar. So that was easy. Of course, I have a young husband who metabolizes food like crazy, and he's got no issues. He can have pizza every night; it wouldn't make any difference, because he's out there
Yeah.
lifting weights. I don't have that body anymore. I had when I was 40 even, I could eat a lot of food and I just exercised a lot. Well, just the reality is, my dad tells me, I eat half the food I used to. It's like, I'm not a kid anymore. I need to pay attention to what goes into my body. And I don't think that having the figure is the most important thing. I'm
Right.
just a little bit more aware of, there's a lot of junk in this. I could eat fruit instead of chocolate and get in that habit. And the fruit, by the way, in Australia is absolutely delicious, as is the meat. They don't have the same kind of preservatives. You've never had a more delicious grape in your entire life. It's just fantastic. So the rules are a little bit different here, but I'm mindful of that. I was doing a meditation where I'm like, all right, universe, I'm just having some problems with my knees. Can you give me a healthier body? Right. And just, meditation on this. Well, the next day, by chance, they checked my it's just not as like carbohydrates, but my blood
Cholesterol?
pressure. Cholesterol. That's exactly. How'd you know that? You must be intuitive. My cholesterol, and they're like, "Look, your cholesterol's off the charts. And you have these grandparents. Your chances of a heart attack in the next 5 years are like 25%." And I was like,
Wow.
"Oh, so that's the message that I got. You want to be healthy, Dave? You got to stop eating, 7 cups of coffee with 90% milk. You just got to do that."
Yeah.
So that was the hardest thing. Getting down to 1 cup of coffee, 90% milk was really hard. But I've done it. I just exchanged a lot of meat for fish. I've been much more careful about that. I think I will allow myself red meat maybe once a week or once every 2 weeks. I've just kind of given my partner permission. You order your pizza and I'll make a salad, which is how I used to stay healthy. I don't suggest anyone become fanatic about this. The best thing that you do is find a really fun sport that takes you out of yourself. That would be even better than a diet. Because when I'm swimming, man, I am working out so many problems. I get out of that water and it's like Mother Nature has embraced me. And I just feel so much, it's just like when you're in exercise mode, you're not thinking about that. You may be working on whatever issues. And you're just having so much fun and you just feel better and you look better. And when people see you, you seem happier. So please don't think about this just as a physical appearance thing. We all know people who may not have the perfect body, but when you see them, they just glow. They're just more fun to be around, right?
Yeah.
They just seem healthier. It's not necessary to be fanatic right now. That's just punishing yourself. But if there's some exchanges you can make, it's not like I never have a candy bar, but if I do, I make myself swim for an hour, right? So just try to kind of make some exchanges, right? It's almost like I'm just more aware of my body instead of it's like a machine for me to get from point A to point B. The sports I am able to do are changing. Swimming is just so good for the body, and I'm extremely fortunate that I moved across the street from the ocean right here in Australia. Right?
Man. I was going to ask you about that. If you were in the ocean, that's amazing.
Yeah, God, it's great.
Yeah.
You can't tell now, but I'm the kind of person who never tanned in their entire life. Well, in Australia, that's just not possible. You could spray on as much sunscreen as you want, and you will burn. It's just inevitable. So if you watch my videos, I'm a lot browner in the summers, which are your winters. But yeah, I think the most important thing for anyone dieting is not to worry about what others are thinking. It is about you. It's about your relationship to your body. It's about being kind to your body. It's about embracing the fact that you have a body and all its marvelous imperfections. Because, you might be attracted to someone because they're beautiful, but you're not going to marry someone because they're beautiful. And if you do, you're going to be miserable because you're not going to have a great conversation with them. An engaging conversation with someone, that's love.
Right? Yeah. After you know someone, then they're that one. They're not that face or that body anymore, are they? Yeah. They are who they are. I mean, there's that initial attraction, but it changes. So I love that. And to be gentle with ourselves while we're going through all this. The other thing, it's funny, I did want to bring up water, and you're right next to the water. I feel like water is such a healing element right now.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, right? I've got my big old
Mhm.
glass of water too. And
Yeah.
always have that by me. Um,
Mhm.
so um in the US, we do have some issues with water. I just got a note from my city saying, you have lead pipes. If you pay to have all your lead pipes removed, we will pay to have the city part removed of lead. And I'm like, okay. And I've had a Berkey. It's a water filtration system, and it's all natural and it's gravity fed, so I can travel with it or whatever. But it's kind of like how we nourish ourselves is so important, and that water is huge, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, it is. And I was told before I moved here that I would really be served by moving near water because it helps to do this work.
Yeah,
The trance channeling that I've learned to do has been really assisted by just the sort of transformative powers of the water. So I would say that it's terrible to see how people in the United States have been subjected to such disregard by our government, especially in impoverished regions. Things change, when they put in the pipes in your house. Maybe they didn't know about that, etc. And I suppose it's
yeah,
worthwhile. But if you were poor, you couldn't afford that. You couldn't afford to change that, right?
right.
So it's a question of again, our rights, and maybe we have to go out and protest and demand more. I am living in Australia where it's reasonably good. That is, I don't know of any people who, for one thing, the houses are generally not old enough to have that same situation, although this particular one probably is. We don't seem to have any problem with that. But I
Nice.
do empathize. I know you guys really do. And
Yeah, yeah. And I don't know if we want to talk about the consciousness of water or
we can.
anything. Do you want to? Okay,
We
we've
can.
got
I don't know about it, so you might be telling me more than I know.
it feels like when we do our meditations, a lot of times we'll go inside the earth, which of course there's more water inside the earth than on the crust. Scientists have found out. And it's like going inside the earth and healing has been
Mm,
transformative in being able to surrender and
mhm,
release. Has
mhm.
been really amazing. But my happy spot, and I know this for many, many lifetimes, is floating in water and staring at a blue sky. I mean,
Wow.
yeah, right? But I love that
Uh-huh.
you get to do that every day.
Yeah, yeah. There's something very, we all started out in water in mom's womb, we're surrounded by this water. Our bodies are made of so much water. There is something much. I used to swim in a pool with the chlorine. And man, did I get ear infections, right? Because how much chlorine they put in there, that just infection is spreading.
Yeah,
So here, don't have any of those issues. And, I had some kind of problems with my knees as well. It wasn't exactly arthritis. Nobody could diagnose it. Let's see, I had a great session on YouTube with, gosh, I'm trying to think of Truth. I'll think of it later, but this great lady on one of these shows, Truth is somewhere in the name. I'll have to think about it. But she told me I would not have to have this operation, that I would meet someone who does kinesthesiology. I have
wow.
tried everything, and I tell you, this kinesthesiology worked like a charm. I have not felt a twinge since. But one thing that helped along the way was swimming every day. It
Yeah,
just there's something about fixing your joints and stuff that super worked. So water is also just a feminine symbol, and I do think that we are turning the page to a divine feminine, and a feminine that is more empowered. Right? Women are more like not just such passive people, but more like, no, now is the time when we want to do the righteous things. And there's so much to be said for the water. Yeah, and I hope you've been other places where you can float on your back.
I have. I used to live in Hawaii and Florida, but
Oh,
I live in a very landlocked area now. So
oh,
I'm in the
yeah.
middle of the United States, and that's where I grew up. And
Where is that?
Kansas City.
Oh,
It's
okay.
in the center of the United States, and it's right at the very middle, and it's a great place. I love it, and I love my neighborhood. And someday I will move somewhere where you can walk into the water again.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Visit. There's always a time to visit.
yeah, yeah. Interesting that you brought up the earth. One of our readers, Annie Bear, Seven Feather, has asked the role of the divine sisterhood as we go forward. So, and I almost didn't say sisterhood, but she wrote it that way. And I thought, I'm going to go ahead and honor that because I feel like um, Father Sky is holding Mother Earth as she gives birth to this new world. So I
Yes.
feel like it's a combo. But
Mm-hmm.
but I love this. I love the sisterhood part too.
Mm-hmm. I'm totally down with the sisterhood. If they will
Okay.
accept me as a member, I will be a sister, right? So
Amen.
I'll totally enjoy that. I will say that in my experience working with other readers, most of them are women, and they have been absolutely awesome, absolutely egalitarian. No one has ever excluded me in any way, although it would be a largely female dominated. I'll also say that my clients, I also teach channeling, and when I teach channeling, most of the clients are women, and they're really good because they know how to feel. As an American man, it took me a long time to engage with my feelings. I would say I've really only done it in the last few years. But if I talk to a woman and I say, "How does that feel?" They're like, "Oh yeah." You talk to a guy, they're like, "Let me think about it. I'll tell you in a week." I don't know. So there's some component to women that makes this often easier. I'd say men with a view to women do better as well. But the people that are most difficult to hypnotize are men who are engineers because they're very rational. No, I'm not sitting on a cloud. I'm sitting on my chair, right? It's so interesting to me that as a culture, we have been taught analytics, rationality. We've been taught all of these things, none of which, by the way, are working right now. Nobody
Yeah.
out there is being led by rational thought for the most part. But no one taught us the logic of the heart. No one said, hey, when you're walking in the room and someone gives you the creeps and you turn around and leave, how do you know that? You just know. No one taught us that you meet someone, you're instantly friends with them. You're just like, I love this person. We're going to get along so well, and you are that connection. So there is so much wisdom in the heart that is really being missed, and I think that's great now is through channels like yours, people are starting to say, no, 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 no. Hear me. I'm not doing that. And
Yeah.
I'm not abandoning rationality or analysis. I am getting to the point of, I'm starting to realize how much of the things I do are like, I'll put a rational scheme on it, but really I'm just pissed off. I put a rational scheme on it, but really this just bothers me because it reminds me of something else, and I need to take a look at that. There's a good deal to offer in this time where we're moving from one way of thinking to maybe a way of feeling.
Oh, I like that. A way of
Mhm.
feeling. Yeah.
And I think that's what manifestation is really about, right? And people will put all these material components in it. I've been guilty of that too. Like, oh,
Sure.
I want that. Oh, I want that. Oh, it's going to be beautiful. Everybody will be impressed. And I think what we really need to do when we manifest is see what's happening and go to the feelings. Wow, it feels great. I feel accomplished, or I feel satisfied, or I feel at peace. And that seems to manifest a lot better. You don't think of the house, think of the home. and the happiness that you have. Who cares if it's a hovel or one bedroom? You know, if you're there, who you care about, love, and you're happy, no one's going to care. And I hear this from so many people. That 1 year that I was totally broke and all three of my kids had to share a bed and mattresses on the floor, that was our happiest year. And I'll tell you, the best Christmas I ever spent, my mom and I were totally broke in junior college. And we were so broke we could not afford to buy each other presents. So I agreed, I'm like, look, Mom, let's cut out pictures of the presents we'd like to give each other. And we had so much fun doing that. But it was also, I got a house, trip to Europe, a couple of attractive guys for my mom and vice versa. And, it was so much fun because we were just both doing that for each other. We were both doing that for our own happiness and pleasure. But for that time, we could really see that just having fun in that way this Christmas, instead of it being focused on all these material things, which we're going to forget about, it's just so much better. And I'll never forget that. I will never forget that you can make any situation better, right? You could even make a situation of loss a blissful one. And that is worthwhile right now, since we're all, stressing. And if you're out there and you're like, but Dave, I've got all these things on my plate, I feel you. I understand. I am clicking away too at what needs to be done. Take a period of time going, all right, if this happens, then I'm doing that. And if this happens, then I'm doing that. And I better call Shirley in Colorado because I might have to stay with her. I don't know in advance. And then I'll rekindle that great friendship and, however that works. Make your plans because it'll help you sleep at night, and then let them go. Because let's face it, most of the things that we are worried about aren't going to happen. Some of them will, but most of them will not. And you're not, by spending your energy calculating how that's going to be, you may be missing an opportunity to solve that problem.
Yeah, that was another question I had about how can we best support the change on the planet, and
Yes.
and at the same time taking care of ourselves and our families.
Yes, 100%. Number one thing that I get from spirit constantly is to stay peaceful. That is, instead of me going, I'm going to punish those people, they're going to go to jail, and this is how things should be, and put them on put them on an island. I have to go, what are these people here to teach me? Right? How can I use what they're doing as a sort of reflection of what not to do? Okay. Yeah. We have a society which, it used to be we're competing against Russia. So, our democracy is better. Our democracy is better. Isn't it great? Well, we don't have that competition anymore. And once that competition, it just became about money. It's just pure materialism. No wonder we have a president going down a golden escalator who has no values whatsoever except money. So understand that if it's very helpful if you believe in reincarnation, because then you realize that you are here for a purpose. You're supposed to experience this, understand it, and give back with love. So maybe you don't want to hang around those people on Thanksgiving, and you need to give a little self-love, because it's just torture, right? Don't torture yourself. That's not worth it. But at the same time, there's a reason why that happened. They're not evil. Those people are just, they've experienced life in a particular way, and they're still smarting from a wound. And maybe our government could have paid attention to them earlier. And, there's a whole other things. So every morning as I'm doing my meditation, I always try to get beyond the chatter, get beyond the judgment. And I really try to go, all right, universe, I don't know what's best, but I am imagining a more beautiful world where people are better treated. Just that. And I'm imagining a better world where everybody has a voice. Just that. No one's punished. Everyone is speaking. Because, there will come a time when you come back to some of those people and you'll rework it out. Maybe they need some separation. But that is, I think one of the most important things to do right now is figure out that portion of your own consciousness. That's something of which you have total control. And that doesn't involve a criticism of the self. It involves an exploration of the self and going, well, yeah, you have to be materialistic to some degree. I mean, I've got to eat, so I have to charge my clients something.
Right.
But, am I charging something outrageous? Is it only about the money? Where is that line? And I have to re-examine it and re-examine it and re-examine it. And this is number one. Number two is I can't fix the universe, but I could become closer to people. I know, if you have clients, it's a one-on-one. I'm not
Mhm.
changing the universe right now. I am working with this one person and they're working with me. And if we can both elevate ourselves, if we can do better, these two people right now, then they can go and help others.
Yeah.
Right. And, maybe that'll be nice to someone in the grocery store today. That'll set off a chain reaction that will send a kid to college. Right. Like it's, we can only really transform each other now. We cannot transform the political spectrum that we have inherited. The other thing is, along the lines of peace, I think that we really do need to dedicate ourselves to, sometimes I want to tell David Pakman, stop blaming the Democrats. You're
Yeah.
sitting here right now in your studio. Why are you not organizing a peaceful rally in front of the federal building that says everybody's got the right to vote? We no longer have the time just to observe. And when I'm saying that, we really have to picture ourselves going to that place and being peaceful. We really have to see ourselves, me, Proud Boys, even if they're going to beat me, I'm just going to take it, because that's how much I care about my government. That's how much I care about my fellow people. And hopefully by hitting me and me not reacting, they will learn something. Certainly viewers with this on YouTube will learn something. Certainly the people who I am being peaceful with will say, Dave's not a hypocrite, right? He really is embodying what he says. That may be what the universe needs us to do right now, is to stand up peacefully for our democracy.
It's very much like Martin Luther King and Gandhi, isn't it? Yeah.
Absolutely. And when you think about those times, incidentally, I went and saw Gandhi's home and birthplace in India.
Oh, wow.
I have never been so moved. I walked through that museum and I was crying the whole time.
Oh,
I can't even wrap my head around that. I wonder if I went to Martin Luther King's house, I would feel the same. Although I kind of feel the same just thinking about it. In
yeah.
some sense, Spirit has told me this is an opportunity. This is an opportunity for many people to become heroes. If my pyramid is, I'm still missing the little top point of it as I'm building up. Now I have to show up and really do what I say I'm going to do. And I have to show up and believe in the way that I'm claiming that I believe. We really have gotten away from that actual peaceful activism that we used to have. They're going to be there's going to have to be some of us who go to those rallies and monitor and make sure people are peaceful. And because you get in that event and your adrenaline is running and you're just like, kill the police.
Right.
Even the regular person can get that kind of feeling.
Yeah.
There's rage pulled up. There's going to have to be some monitors who are going, look, brother, this is a peaceful protest. Cameras are watching. We need to show these people. And when that happens, everybody's elevated. The person who's keeping the peace is elevated. The person who's learning about peace is elevated. The people who might be violent on the other side, eventually they're gonna crack. Eventually they are going to go, I can't hit someone who wasn't hitting me back. And I'll tell you, that happened for my parents. They were not aware of Black people's issues. They didn't know what that was. My parents never had a conversation for the most part with Black people. They were servants or working here or working there. There was no Indiana. There was no mixing of that society for the most part. But when they moved to California and they were watching the guys with the hoses on TV, that's when they were appalled, and they were sitting there with a Southern couple who weren't appalled, and they were just shocked that other people couldn't be appalled by this. And really, that was a total consciousness change for my parents, who were not inherently bigoted. They just didn't know. They were just ignorant. And thereafter, they became pretty active. I mean, they weren't marching in the street so much, but on the personal level, as they had experiences where they saw people discriminated against, both of my parents, and my father's pretty conservative, both of them stepped in and said, that's not okay. We won't allow that. So
beautiful.
Situations make heroes. All of us are doing heroic action just by facing this and working on it.
Do you see another Martin Luther King or Gandhi coming in at this time on the planet?
Well, that's something that I found very, very interesting too. And I always tell people, don't follow a guru. You learn to do this work on your own. You go to Buddhism and you take what's useful. You go to Hinduism, you take what's useful. You go to Muslim religion and you take what's useful. And then you go to the guy down the street and you take what's useful. And then you go to that meetup and you take what's useful. All of it is you in your own version of this religion and how it works. And that is agency. You just start following somebody and doing what they're telling you to do. So you're going to achieve this enlightenment. You're just participating in, dad running the show again. So we have to become our own leaders and our own gurus. It's up to every single one of us to critically evaluate those who are leading us, because everybody makes mistakes. You can watch the Dalai Lama make mistakes and go, you're not Dave. You're not so good at technology. I could work on my sound a little bit. But I do not see a person emerging, and I think that is a big source of frustration. That we keep thinking that even the left leaders that we have created, no one seems to be in the position of leading. And I think, I think Biden, and I think there was a big hope, and there still is a little hope, that Kamala would lead us, that she would be the one. She's a lady, she's active, she seems like she's not a passive person, and maybe she will be, but she hasn't taken the lead at this point. So it's kind of up to us. Maybe we do need to stop asking others to lead and just become those leaders as a collective. I think we will be very powerful if we do. And maybe I'm working with you and I'm like, Terry, maybe it's a little bit like this, or you were a little tough on her, or I see your point, but maybe we can find a better way. And you would do the same with me. And then if we are who we say we are, we will be reasonable and we will work together and we will say that this cause is more important than, what shirt we're wearing, right?
Yeah, I love that. I do. There's that old thing. Your guru is G, you are you. And it's like, it's silly, but it's so true. Yeah, I love that. I love that. And we have looked for people to save us for years, Yeshua and Moses and Durga. So there have been many.
They're all available. They are available to you. All of those characters are available to you. If you sit in a state of prayer and openness, I believe, and I have experienced, that they show up. Maybe not verbally, maybe it's just a feeling, but they're available.
So some people have talked about the light versus dark on the planet, and that if we get a certain percentage of light workers and raise the vibration of the planet, that it's going to shift everything.
Yes.
Is that what you see happening?
I do see that happening. I think the problem with November 5th, as I have been told by Spirit, was not necessarily the light workers, but in order to have a successful democracy, 65% of the people have to believe in that democracy. It can't be 51-49. It means it's just a constant fight. So one thing that one can imagine, however things work out on January 20th, one thing that we can imagine is that we are just being told, We got to shift some of those minds, starting with ourselves. Some of those minds will not be shifted until they lose their insurance. That's just the facts. Some of those minds will not be changed until they're laid off, because that's what the powers that be decide. Maybe the crisis needs to happen, but I don't want to put more weight on light workers, because I think we're doing a terrific job, a beautiful job, really. I think we are doing our best. Maybe this is a little check. All right, let's rethink this a little bit. Am I that honest? Let's rethink this a little bit. Maybe recalibrate and focus our direction. There was a lot of humility coming from a lot of readers on after Super Tuesday. Certainly me, like humbled and trying to figure out role here. What am I doing here with spirit? What am I supposed to do? That is worthwhile. Let's all recalibrate and rethink. I don't have the answer for everyone, but each person has that answer in themselves. And I think once that happens, that it will move things in the right direction. But we cannot make ourselves solely responsible for how politics evolve, but we can make ourselves solely responsible for how we evolve. I don't know what percentage needs to change or become light workers, but I'll just tell, if I do a video about the future, 160,000 views are not unusual, right?
Wow.
If I do a video about how to transform yourself, 10,000 views would be good, right? I've noticed, though, that has changed with the election. Now I put up past life regressions and people watch them more. And of course, as fate would have it, the past life regressions just have to be on point. It's like literally right now. Like, oh my gosh. I put out a couple of them recently, and I'm looking at them going, whoa, is this timely? People are watching that more, and they're watching channeling more, which is not a quick answer. It is more like what's really going on. So it might be that these current events are waking people up. And you'll notice things are not going well for the Trump administration. Even the Republicans are opposing him. And I think ultimately that will be the downfall. They don't want to deal with him either. They don't want to read his tweets and like have death threats for their kids, even if they're conservative. They're happy he helped them in their position, but they don't want to deal with that. And business people don't want to deal with him. And, there's going to be a lot more people that don't want to deal with him. It's surprising, but this time around, there's more resistance than the first time.
Do you think that's monetary? He certainly made a lot of people a lot of money previously.
Yes, I would say that it is a small percentage of people. If you look at wealth in the United States now, it is incredible how disparate it is, right?
Horrible.
And if you're a student of history, you can go back to about 1900. It was the same. My great grandfather did not pay any taxes on his money, right? And he was one of these scion types who had a great invention, had factories and stuff like that.
Wow.
Of course, they felt entitled to the money that they had. I'm like, what do you mean taxes? What do you mean? And then those times, we weren't fighting wars all over the planet. So if you look at the total disparity of wealth, here's an interesting thing. In Australia, the average income is $60,000 a year, whereas in America, it's 65. This was a few years ago. So you'd think, oh, America's doing better. Except here's the difference. That money, that 60,000, is distributed to 90% of the people. Very few people are extremely rich, and virtually no one is homeless. And I mean, I saw a homeless camp, once a year in Australia, right? And it's a pretty big city. So the money is just not distributed. I got to Australia and I worked as an English teacher. I worked for the same company and I had the same job as I'd had in San Francisco. In Australia, I made twice as much money. It didn't bankrupt the school, right? It's just that the rules are set up, and sitting in the office, and The manager comes in, and we're sitting down in the office we share in our building, and we're there with the union rep, and the union rep is like, you need to go, manager person. You're not welcome. And he skedaddled right out of there, because this culture is very egalitarian. And if you want to get screwed in Australia, just talk down to someone, you will be ruined. They will not listen to you. Even if you're right, you'll be ruined. So, it is a lot about money. A few people made a lot of money under Trump, but come on, most of us, got shut down, couldn't leave our house, knew people who died, businesses were destroyed, houses went through the roof. And the idea that administration was, at all good for the economy it's just laughable. The only thing Trump did right was take our taxes and pay for the vaccine. That's the only thing that he did, and that's basically socialism, right? So nobody seems to miss it. It is also about the media. I believe very rich and powerful people have seized most avenues of media. There isn't really even a middle anymore. We're supposed to call NBC the middle, or CNN the middle. These are corporations. They're not here to share wealth, right?
Yeah.
So it's become a crisis where the money will affect people. But, personally, I honestly have to say I've made more money since Trump, because I've had this channel and I've had to do this kind of work. So, maybe I can, inadvertently, say that I have benefited, but I couldn't care less. What is so upsetting to me is not just how they're treating people south of the border, but that person's soul. Like, look, I can understand you can't bring everybody in, but that could be you. That kid walking 3 countries to get away from the drug dealers, 5-year-old kid with no shoes. It could be you or me. Where is your empathy? And if you're going to dismiss that, that's your soul. That's a black mark on your soul that you're going to bring to the next, 25 lifetimes. You're always going to have abandoned that portion of yourself. And that has a long-term effect too. People aren't going to come to your house for Thanksgiving, because who wants to hang out with a soulless person who doesn't give thanks on Thanksgiving? It is, difficult to watch people who are essentially good become so cold. And I think that's what's disturbing. I don't think it's so much about the money or inflation or anything else. I think what people are really upset about is a bunch of people have become cold-hearted, and then some people really have gone to this shadowy place of cutting themselves off because it's somehow a competition. I couldn't have money along with a new resident. We couldn't work together and have a good economy together. It's us or them. And it's never been that way. It is always better when we cooperate. And frankly, the economy is always better under Democrats. Always.
Yeah.
In my lifetime.
That's interesting. I hadn't thought about that, but yeah.
It's always better.
Yeah, and I mean, my mom was an immigrant. My grandmother was my dad's mother was an immigrant, and it's just like the richness that they bring into our lives of art, food, everything. It's amazing, and plus the culture that they bring, different ways of different modes of knowing.
Yeah.
So, so how can we integrate this light into our everyday life, but also into our bodies? Like we've been talking about diet and water. Do you feel like in meditation, do you feel like the crystalline energy on the planet, the ley lines, the solar flares, and a lot of people are having these ascension symptoms from this, whether it's ear ringing or numbness of the feet. There's so much going on. So what do you think about that? What does spirit say, or you or Dave?
Right. all of those things you've mentioned, and I have had several ascension moments in the past 5 years. Some of them were very dramatic, and I got that ear ringing one day. I actually called my neighbors, like, "What's going on here? What's that noise?" They didn't know what I was talking about. And then it popped on my YouTube, which is something I notice. If you want to know what books to read, just go to
Right?
Amazon, see what that universe is speaking to you there. That's how I got the book that I was showing you. So meditation is a fantastic thing to do. I love going camping, and I'm going tomorrow because you can't watch all that media. You're there, and it takes at least 24 hours for the noise to stop, and then you're just sitting, listening to the wind or the waves or the trees. I would say to anybody out there, this is the most helpful thing that you can do right now. Sitting at home and worrying and thinking about all the terrible stuff that's going to happen. If you go away for a weekend, nothing's going to change as such that it would inspire you to do anything. You will be alone with nature, and just that quiet will really ascend that process because you're listening to Mother Nature and she knows a lot, right? And you'll be there away from things. That was, I actually went to Uluru for 10 days. You know what Uluru is?
No.
It's the Aboriginal, like the most important
Oh,
Aboriginal spot in Australia. And it's like kind of like
yes.
a flat top mountain.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's a
Auckland,
chakra,
just
isn't it?
yeah, and
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. It's one of those ley line focus points too. You're not allowed to take pictures of it. Aboriginals don't
Love it.
believe that you should freeze something in time. Fascinating,
Love
right? It's very interesting to go to a different religion, which is another thing that I would recommend. But let me tell you, I was like, oh yeah, all right. My partner wanted to go. I'm like, I'm from Los Angeles. Like, I've been around enough deserts. Fine if you want to go. It was wonderful. And it had a really energy that I cannot describe. And I came home and I had such a spiritual transformation that my partner had to keep going. You've left the front door open again. Uh, and I do want to let people know, if you have that kind of thing, take a look on any channel, YouTube, talk to people about that, because there are consequences. There was a next week where I had a depression crash, and that's not uncommon. Look at all of the symptoms, all of the things going around, and get someone to talk to you about it and walk you through that, because you can even have the feeling like nothing matters, right? Well, I found God, and I don't want to go to work anymore. That's normal response. But facilitating that, there are read books. That always has helped. And again, I mean, there's so many great writers out there. Dolores Cannon, you can read Journey of Souls. Johnson is the writer. Robert Johnson, I've just pointed out. You can speak to anyone online and see. Those will completely transform. I just feel right now that maybe this is the time to start collecting a lot of information. So that helps to incorporate the light. I also work on a process where I do a series of pyramids before I do the work.
Yes.
Right? So I put that in a pyramid pointing downwards into the earth, and it just stops that. And then I have another pyramid above that I bring down that's full of love. I find that is really incorporating. And when I really get there and I'm really meditating, I start to go, wait a minute, what's that argument really about? Right? Let's see it for a moment from their point of view. And then and I just become much more an embodiment of the light. After this sort of spiritual transformation I found that rather than be on my bicycle and yelling at these cars, you cut me off, I'm a little bit more sympathetic, and I'm a little bit more, pardon me, but you did almost hit me. And when I approach people that way, they're like, oh, I'm sorry. Instead of fighting, that is an option, right? It's if you really can find a way to speak to the person as you would like to have been spoken to if you made a mistake, and you will come clicking your heels if you've accomplished that. Individual accomplishments right now are absolutely essential. Again, we can't change everything. We can't change the world. We might not even be able to change the neighbors' minds, but we can change our own minds, and we can learn all of this stuff, and we can start, living by, I mean, I had a whole Jesus experience as well. And I was not a Jesus person. I did not necessarily, I didn't have nothing positive or negative about Christ. I certainly had some negative views of Christianity. But when I had that encounter, I was like, and it was because of Dolores Cannon's Jesus and the Essenes. And that's one thing I'd really recommend is Jesus and the Essenes. Also, they walked with Jesus. But I found that absolutely transformative. Jesus, sorry, I was just going to say many of his people are women.
Yeah, many.
They weren't all men.
No.
They were women. And he said the women were actually better at it. And I'm not surprised. Yeah.
I have heard that it was either Mary Magdalene or his mom, Mary, wrote the best book of the Bible, but it was all tossed out. Yeah.
Magdalene. Yeah, it was Magdalene. And people often think that Magdalene was the same as the prostitute, and she wasn't. She was just a person who was greatly influenced by Jesus and saw his value. And I think she had some money and financially supported him. Just Dolores Cannon, Jesus and the Essenes, that'll tell you all the things that they don't tell you in the Bible. And I just highly, highly recommend it. And Journey of Souls is always fun. You can look at Journey of Souls on YouTube too. You can just listen to it while you're doing the dishes. There is something there for everyone. That is, I would say, for everybody watching, there's a different way to the light. And try this one now, and then try another one next week, and then try another one next month. Each of those things will give you the skills, and I think that's what we're collecting right now to help us with the transformation that you are talking about. And maybe it won't succeed, but the most important thing is that we have done our best. And when we look back at our lifetimes, we will say, I did my best to change that. And I evolved in these ways. As person who just passed life regression, I will tell you that is the most important thing ever. Is the last day of your life, you're lying on your deathbed and you're thinking, you know what? I had a great relationship. I didn't make $1 million. No one ever cares about the money they made with their last day. Not a single person. They will tell you about what they have accomplished and how they have loved others. That is always the most important thing for them. And if they haven't done them, they will tell you about their regrets. And then they will go to another lifetime where they learn it again. One can imagine, how many times has a certain potential president, lived a life where they were just awful. And in my past life regression, I'll tell you, Trump was in there. Yeah, he was. Wow. I was a sailor on Captain Cook's boat, and he was Captain Cook.
Oh,
yeah. He didn't like me, so he said, "You go to the island. You got to find some water."
Oh, then bye-bye.
But there was a lesson for me in that lifetime. I could have stopped being part of the British Navy and battling. I could have gone with the person that I loved and changed my life, but I chose not to. I chose patriotism and the easy path of being a sailor, as opposed to going, you know what? That's not working. Love is too important. I will pursue whatever lifetime I can in love. So there's so much to learn out there. And I just best thing, don't be resistant to learning. Be prepared to change everything, because I've really changed everything.
Curiosity.
Yes. Yeah. Curiosity, motivation. You notice that people who are conservative, they already have the answers. Right. There is no curiosity. Yeah. And that is what's limiting them and making this change of the new earth a bit rocky.
Yeah. Well, there's so many more questions I have, but I want to thank you for being here.
Absolute pleasure.
It's been amazing. Do you have anything else that Spirit wants you to tell us to get through this?
Let's see. Let's just check in here for a moment. One thing that I'm seeing right now is this pyramid, and I always make these pyramids sort of again above and below. This particular pyramid that I'm seeing, it's almost like a rocket ship, at the base is light, and it's almost like pushing it up higher. And I would just say, don't hesitate when you are meditating to notice that we actually are moving higher. In some cases, we're learning more by the stress and difficulty than we would if everything was just easy and fun, right? We are participating and active in it. So it isn't all bad. We could have been born in a really boring time, right? I had a lot of time. The first past life regression I did, I was so bored out of my mind, right? And I tried to take the easy life, and I picked the fairly rich partner. I was miserable and bored. It was great because I got out of the doors of the therapist office in San Francisco, and this like honk, honk, noise, energy, 25,000 homeless people. Oh my God, I've got to ride my bike through this city. I literally burst into laughter. I much prefer this life where I've lived on 3 continents, had to really search for my job, had to go through all of these things, lots of problems and trauma. This really is a better life than one where you just didn't really gain that much information. Do yourself a favor out there and write down those things that are good, right? And it doesn't mean we accept what isn't good, but write down those things that are good, and maybe even write down those things that you could change in your life, because that way you're bringing the agency back to you. And as I say this, don't suppose that I'm totally evolved and I do these things. This is also a me. But look, that pyramid I see, it's just like a rocket ship. This time really is like a rocket ship that is just going to accelerate all of our consciousnesses. Don't look at the facts so much as the interior experience of what's going on, and that of those people next to you. Like, we would not have met without this crisis.
Right.
So there's a right. We wouldn't be talking about these ideas without the crisis. So maybe the crisis is bringing us to a better place.
Yeah, I love that. It's such a reset, isn't it? Just like COVID.
Yes.
Yeah. I think everybody kind of skyrocketed, and I love that you brought in the spaceship. So
Really?
yes, I do. I'm a huge fan. Spaceship.
I also kind of wonder, I might make the next video on this. It has a feeling of getting ready for contact.
Yeah.
It seems like all of this stuff is getting ready for contact. So and that's just a feeling. Sure, there's stuff on YouTube and and the Senate and stuff, but I'm starting to wonder if it's really about that too.
Yeah, I agree.
Good
Well,
one, Tara.
loved it. Thank you so much, Dave.
My
So, and if
pleasure.
anybody wants to get in touch with you for, you do readings, you do mediumship, you channel, and you do regressions, and teach
Yes, I
people how
do.
to channel.
And I teach people how
So,
to channel. Lots
yeah,
of stuff there. Choices. If you look at my website, you could see all those differences. And I'd especially love to channel for people. Trance channeling work has become a real pleasure.
I love that. That's beautiful. Well, thank you, and thank you everybody here that came, and we will see you later.
Thanks so much.